of evil. What's under this ice?
Is there a problem, sir? What's your problem?
Alex, qu'est-ce que c'est?
Please get explode! Shut up, Brownie.
You're so not funny.
This is your idea of a joke.
It's not a joke! It's not a joke!
I saw, out my window, I saw the ground and the cabin, it starts to shake, right? And the left side blows up and then the whole plane just explodes.
But wait, but the plane, it's gonna blow up, it's gonna blow up.
You figure out the design, you can cheat death?
Alex, you've already done that by walking off the plane. Your friend's departure shows that death has a new design for all of you.
They died. We lived. Get over it. I will not let this plane crash be the most important thing in my life. I'm moving on, Carter. And if you want to waste your life beating the shit out of Alex every time you see him, then you can just drop dead.
Somehow, Flight 180, are they still in flight? Somewhere? Are they safe?
I knew I should have felt up Tammy in the pool that time.
Hey, what are you whining about? He said I'm next.
He didn't say anything.
See, you have a responsibility to tell me.
Think it's gonna make it easier to know, Carter? It's not. It's gonna make it harder.
Hi, this is Tracy Savage, Debbie from Friday the 13th, Part 3. For the best podcast ever on old slasher movies, be sure you find Hysteria Continues. You will be glad you did. And hey, stay out of Crystal Lake, okay?
Yeah, and welcome back to Hysteria Continues, episode 138. And I'd just like to say thank you very much to Bill Ackerman from Supporting Characters podcast for getting that clip of Debbie Savage to...
Tracy Savage.
Oh, God. Oh, here we go.
She plays Debbie.
Yes, okay, all right. Sorry. I had a glass of red wine last night. So
that was slasher expert Justin Kurzweil.
Wait a minute. You had one glass of red wine, and that's enough to cover this error?
Maybe more than one glass.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, smoothing that over as professional as ever. But no, thank you, Bill Ackerman from Supporting Characters podcast for the clip of Debbie Savage, who played Debbie in Friday the 13th Part 3. So, and that was very...
You said
very
Debbie
nice
Savage again.
Did I? Oh, God. It's going to be one of those shows, isn't it? It's going to be our final destination, Erik, I think. That's not even a joke, is it? But anyway, we've actually got a joke of the week coming up, one of Erik's special jokes.
It's that classic one, yeah.
It's and I do mean special. It's when we met Amanda Reyes, aka Amanda by Night or Debbie by Night, who was in London, who was there to launch her new book, Are You Alone in the House? Kind of compendium of TV horror. Well, is it all horror movies? It's not all horror movies, is it? It's
no, it's not all horror.
No,
it's TV movies, but it's a fantastic book, and we're actually having Amanda on the next show. We're very excited. She's going to come on. We're going to talk. We'll announce which TV slasher movie we're going to be talking about next week. But we're going to be having a good old chat about TV slasher movies of yore next time. But before we do that, we're going to be this time. It's Joseph's choice, and obviously everyone knows what we're talking about because it's in the title of the podcast. But Joseph's pick is Final Destination, another one of your slightly controversial. Is it a slasher movie? Choices, Joseph. But you'll be defending that, I'm sure.
Well, you will just have to wait and see, won't you?
Exactly, okay. But how are you anyway, Joseph? We haven't recorded for a little while.
Some velvet morning when I'm straight, Justin.
Oh, yes, okay. Anyway, how are you, Debbie? I mean, Erik.
Well, speaking of mixed up our names that I get called, when we were in the hotel we had separate rooms, I should specify before I go any further. When we were staying in the hotel when we were meeting Amanda Reyes, one of the staff was called Inga, which I thought was kind of fun.
It was chuckles all around, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But she didn't live up to her name, though, did she?
No, she was quite pleasant. Yeah, I needed to get my door key reactivated. Because I drunkenly walked all the way up to the 4th floor, found I couldn't get into my room, had to go back down to reception, and Inga helped me out.
Well, there you go. That's synchronicity or something.
It is, yeah.
Isn't it? So,
Fate.
Fate. And, well, actually, we've got a little sound clip here, haven't we, of you sent me of our meeting.
This is me asking probably the most important question ever put to Amanda Reyes.
And here it is.
Who's your favorite? It's me. It's me, isn't it?
It's Justin.
Yay!
Hey! You've totally re-edited that clip. I hate you. Play the proper clip. She did not say her favourite was Justin.
Oh, Erik, you've rumbled me. Okay, here's the proper clip.
Amanda Reyes, you have now met Justin, Erik, Joseph, and Nathan. Who's your favourite?
I love you all.
No, it's who's your favourite? It's me. It's me, isn't it?
It's Erik.
Yay! What do you have to say about that, Justin?
Fake news.
Ooh.
So there you go. I'm Amanda's favourite.
Well, actually, she does.
No, I don't believe it.
No, well, actually, you have to listen to later in the show for the full clip.
Because she retracts the statement, but she was drunk when she retracted.
Well, she was drunk. She was drunk when she made the statement as well. We were all a little bit tipsy, so.
I'm no one's favourite, and I'm completely fine with that.
Aww. Well, Justin's nobody's favourite either, so.
I'm modest. What can I say?
Well, we'll have a little clip, 5 minutes of
Joseph,
banter.
You are the favourite of never really picking a slasher movie to cover on the show.
Yeah, like rabid grannies. Yeah.
Oh no, like the Terminator, which is not even a horror movie.
Hey, the Terminator's more slasher than rabid grannies.
I told Wes, I was like, we covered the Terminator, and he's like, that's an action movie, and I was like,
girl.
I bet you left out that you picked rabid grannies, didn't you?
Rabid grannies is a group of people trapped in a mansion getting killed off one by one. That's almost as slasher as it gets.
The Terminator is a woman being stalked by someone. So there you go.
That's a robot.
Yeah.
Oh, spoiler alert! He's a robot.
I don't think anyone knew that, Erik.
Yeah, I know. It's only revealed at the very end.
Yeah.
I figured you'd give me flack more so for Terror at Red Wolf Inn than Rabid Grannies.
No, I think Terror at Red Wolf Inn was more slasher-esque.
More slasher-esque?
Well, Blood Lake isn't a movie, for starters, let alone a slasher movie, so... There's somebody's beads going again.
But Blood Lake is awesome.
Oh, anyway, talking of awesome, Nathan, how are you?
Oh, I'm awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for that. But so we are going to be covering Final Destination a little bit later. But before we do, should we in time-honoured tradition, and before we get to that mini interview with Amanda coming up, should we talk about, because we haven't recorded for a little while, so it'd be interesting to see what we've been watching recently. So Nathan, do you want to let rip?
Yes. Yes.
What?
I have been on this kick, and people have to forgive me because it's not a horror movie at all, but there is this British comedy called Come Fly With Me, and I've seen every episode probably 2 or 3 times by now, because this is one of the funniest shows I think I've ever seen. So have you guys heard of it at all?
This is the one with David Walliams and what's his face?
Yes.
But there is a scene where they have Barbara Windsor, the real Barbara Windsor. It's not like playing her, but at the airport, and he tries to con her into signing this paper as an autograph, which is actually a letter to the Queen requesting that he be like knighted or something. And he signs it because he's going to get her to autograph it, and underneath it says it's going to be Barbara Windsor, and everything. It says, that little common lady from the television. It's just so insulting, but I think that show is hysterical if nobody's seen it. But that's my.
No, I was going to say I have seen it, but I can't really remember much about it. I did like Little Britain, which was their previous show.
I need to watch it now.
Yeah, I think you'll like that. I've seen a couple of episodes, so I'll have to catch up with that. But Nathan, that's not even a horror movie.
I know.
Yeah, and are you giving out about Final Destination not being a slasher movie?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, actually, I think Final Destination is closer to a slasher than other stuff we've covered. So I was just giving Joseph a hard time because none of us ever do.
So you're going to talk about the Golden Girls now, Nathan?
Yes, the slasher episode of the Golden Girls. Well, actually, I haven't really seen any, I guess, horror movies I think that we haven't already discussed. There hasn't really been a whole lot out lately, new-wise, that I've been that interested in. So I've actually just seen some older movies. I watched Sleepaway Camp 3 again recently because that movie is amazing. And I also watched the Slumber Party Massacre 3, which I want to get around to covering at some point as well, because I like driller killers, and this movie has a driller killer. So But I don't want to say too much about either of those because I really want to cover them. So, I don't really have.
Justin, aren't you on the Sleepaway Camp 3 UK Blu-ray?
Yes, I am wittering about the films.
Did you like all the characters in it?
Yeah, I like them. I mean, they're kind of. I appreciate the Sleepaway Camp sequels more now than when I first saw them because obviously I was comparing them to the first film. They're very different. Well, they're kind of similar but different. They're much broader kind of comedies.
To me, Part 3 is an example of where most of the characters are not likable, but they're fun to watch. Like, they're kind of the fun, unlikable kind of people. They're not obnoxious to me, I guess.
Yeah,
at least not grating to watch.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to cover those at some point, definitely in the future. So thank you, Nathan. Anything else? I don't want to stop you in mid-flow.
Yeah. I appreciate the non-interruption, but no.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, talking of Golden Girls, there was a podcast I listened to, My Favourite Murder, which there's a Golden Girls play, I think, and they had some merchandise, and it was on a cup, on a mug, and it said, "Thank you for being a cunt," which I thought was quite funny. And I just thought maybe...
Thank you for being a cunt.
And I just thought maybe we should get some merchandise along those lines. I can see a whole range of Inga mugs and things.
You whore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just writes itself. I'd love to see...
And a classic. That could be on a mug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, apparently they always get... apparently their listeners always doing little memes and the things with their, things they say. So our invitation out there to our dear listeners...
It'll be like our T-shirt. No one will buy it.
Exactly. I know. I know. We're the superstars of the slasher podcasting. All four of our listeners agree with us. So, but thank you, Nathan. Joseph, what about you? What have you been watching?
Well, last night I actually started to watch a horror film, the first one in a while, because I haven't had much time to do it, and I fell asleep, so I haven't watched anything. Well, I started watching a movie called Fear Inc., like Incorporated, off of Hulu, and the plot sounds great, and what I saw of it was pretty great, but I was so tired, I just passed out, and I just woke up, so I was catching up on sleep. So maybe next time.
Okay, well, tell us about it next time. But
yeah.
But okay, well, thank you, Joseph, for that non-review. But we're all a bit tired here. What? Well, but no, Erik, how about you? What have you been watching?
Okay, well,
asshole.
What?
First of all,
what can I say? Thank
You're
you
being rhubarb lady now.
Yeah, thank you for being a cunt. That's all
Okay, well, first of all, just to plug another podcast, because we met, and somebody else we met on our weekend away in London 2 weeks ago was a chap called Gore Blimey, which is not his real name, but a very nice chap. He does a podcast called Trilogy of Terror. He's based in Wales, and it's really good. I was listening to the last few episodes. He had a great episode about So Bad They're Good movies, which introduced me to Shark Attack 3 and its famous line delivered by John Barrowman, which I sent to you a few days ago as an audio clip. I don't expect you to play it, Justin, because it's very rude. It says a very bold word.
Well, I know exactly. I know exactly the clip you mean, but I've forgotten to thing. But what I could do is actually, if I just pause it here and I'll drop it in.
We'll meet back here at 8 a.m. Don't be late.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, me too, but, I'm really wired. What do you say I take you home and eat your pussy?
And I've dropped that in, so there you go.
There we go. So John Barrowman is a very famous personality, and certainly in the UK and Ireland now, as a singer and an actor. And this was his sort of before he was famous role. Now I haven't actually watched the movie, but apparently it's supposed to be good fun. I recommend Trilogy of Terror podcast from our friend Gore Blimey.
I listened to. I was going to say that I listened to this podcast as well, and the Zombie Flesh Eaters one is very.
Yes, he does.
It's very funny. He's kind of. He's got. If you like double entendres, which potentially, if you're listening to the show, you may. Enjoyed one or two up here in the past, but yes, he's a kind of master of the entendre, double entendre. Yes. So
I may be guesting on his show in the near future,
and so may I.
Oh, interesting. Yes. So Trilogy of Terror.
Did you know that I'm the only one who's never guested on another podcast? I don't cheat on people like you guys do.
Well, we're swingers. We're podcasting.
I'm better than you guys.
Well,
I cheated with Amanda. I mean, that's probably one of the best people you could cheat with.
I cheated with Meep.
Well, yeah.
But Meep is easy.
I have integrity, you guys.
Okay, but back to movies that I have watched recently. I watched Rings, which is possibly one of the worst reviewed major cinema releases in recent years. Everyone was giving it 1 star, sometimes out of 5, sometimes out of 10. So I didn't go into it with big expectations. I'm not a huge... I liked the first Ring.
You're not a fan of Rings?
I knew this was going to happen. Oh, no, I'm not a fan of Rings, Justin, because I'm all innocent. Yeah.
He has integrity.
Yeah. So anyway, it was getting possibly some of the worst reviews ever. And so it was kind of surprising to find that it wasn't as bad as all of that. I mean, it's very run-of-the-mill. It does have a great opening sequence set on an airplane, much like Final Destination, where a victim of the curse is on a plane and sort of the monitors begin to act up, and, Samara appears out of the monitor, and then the opening credits roll, and it's never clear if the plane actually crashes or what happens, but it moves on anyway to sort of a few years later. And there's this nifty idea where Johnny Galecki is playing a college professor who set up this underground laboratory in the university to do experiments to try and find a way to solve the curse or bring an end to the curse. And that's all quite good. But in the end, it just boils down to a boyfriend and girlfriend running around trying to find out what happened to Samara, who is Samara's mother, and why was she dropped down the well, which is all stuff that's kind of covered in the first film. So it doesn't really do anything terribly new, but it certainly is not a 1-star movie in my opinion, but it's certainly not something worth seeking out as such. It's kind of dull and very, very average, but not appallingly awful. I mean, after Axum, everything has been uphill since then, so maybe I'm just a bit too optimistic. I don't know. Has anyone seen Rings? Justin, you have, I know.
No, I haven't, Eric. I've not. Pure as Driven Snow, and also I haven't seen the movie either. Not yet. Is it out? Is it out then? How did you see it?
It is. I saw it on the movie download. I paid for it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Right, well, that's good to hear. But I've not seen... Anyone else seen Rings? How about you, Nathan? I'm sure you have.
No, I have not.
Okay. Joseph?
No, can't say I've seen it.
No.
Okay, well, moving on. Something I did pay for, Justin, was Split, which is the latest M. Night Shyamalan movie. Now, he's also one who gets really bad reviews. I can't remember what the reception was like for this one. I think it was pretty decent. It did well at the box office. I mean, I quite like it.
Was positive.
Yeah, I quite like his movies. Even, like, I think The Happening is a really silly and entertaining movie, even though it got some of the worst reviews ever. In this one, James McAvoy plays a schizophrenic who has 23 personalities, and he kidnaps 3 teenage girls, keeps them in the basement. So it kind of starts out like a torture porn movie, maybe something like Captivity, and elements of 10 Cloverfield Lane as well. My problem with this one is possibly that it's a bit too long. It's over 2 hours, and it had been a taut 90 minutes, it might have worked better. As is the norm for M. Night Shyamalan movies, there's a big twist in the tale. Well, there's 2 twists in the tale. The first one you can see coming a mile away if you've ever seen any of his previous movies. The second one, which is revealed in the final 30 seconds, I didn't expect, and it was a real surprise, and I thought it was pretty darn nifty. I'm glad I didn't read the Wikipedia page on the film before I watched the film, because it spoils it in the first sentence. So it's avoid that spoiler if you can, because it does. It is pretty cool, I think, and I presume that's. I remember you saying it, Joseph, that you thought that twist was kind of cool at the end.
Yeah, I found that bit clever. I actually liked the movie a lot too. I mean, it was one of his better films.
Yeah, no, I did like it. I just
Yeah,
I just felt it dragged a bit at times, but I do enjoy it, and I think he gets a hard time. I'd prefer a film to try something ludicrous and for it to be kind of laughable maybe in places, rather than just be run-of-the-mill and boring.
See, the only thing I saw was that someone said M. Night Shyamalan has a new movie called Split about a guy with multiple personalities hunting down people in like a basement or whatever. So I was like, ooh, that sounds okay. I'll go see it. And so I didn't know anything else about it. So that definitely that little, I guess that little gag at the end really took me by surprise, and I thought it was very clever.
It is very clever, yeah. So they're the
I
two I've
admit
seen.
that
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm sorry. I was just saying. I admit I didn't get that gag at the end until somebody explained it to me.
Well, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. I imagine that probably isn't the first time Eric's gagged at the end. But
you should know after that Saturday night 2 weeks ago.
Are you saying Justin is hung?
Yeah, I was wondering if that's what you were going for.
Yeah, that's
cocktail
what
sausage.
Eric, you'll never know. You'll never know.
Justin was in my room.
I was in your room. I saw your big package.
Yeah.
You snuck in his room at night?
No, I had to go in and drop my bags off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
wait a minute, you didn't have your own room? You had to use Eric's room to store your belongings?
Just for the first couple of hours while we were waiting, he was waiting to check in.
Yeah,
because I checked in the day before.
Okay.
It's fascinating. Fascinating. So, but okay.
I've watched a few TV movies as well because I've been reading Amanda's book, and it's just instilled this enthusiasm for me, which often happens when I'm reading books like this. So I'm going to wait until she's on with us next week to talk about them.
Now, do we all have Amanda's book? Because I do.
Yes. We got both copies.
No, but I am going to be ordering it. I was just waiting for my decent payday since this last paycheck went to a lot of yard work. We have to cut a whole tree down in our yard because it died. So I'm very sad about that.
Oh.
You're going to have a tree funeral for it?
Yes. Actually, I'm really sad that I have to cut this tree down.
Well.
Exciting.
Yes.
Exciting gardening news.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to involve a chainsaw, and that's scary movie related.
Exactly. Well, hopefully there won't be any mishaps. But I just thought I'd mention a couple. Well, actually, what I've got downstairs to watch is Seoul Station, which is the prequel to Train to Busan, the South Korean zombie movie. Which is like an anime sort of prequel to that film, which I really liked Train to Busan. I thought it was a great film, so I'm looking forward to watching that later. Have you seen that, Eric?
No, I haven't seen it yet. It's got great reviews. I'm just zombied out a bit, so.
Okay. Well, so I'm looking forward to that. The other few things I've watched recently, there was How Could I Resist a film titled Windmill Massacre. Set in Holland around the windmill and a slasher and a group of tourists on a tour bus breaking down near a windmill and then being picked off one by one by a disfigured madman. And you'd think you couldn't really go wrong with that. And the film itself is very handsomely made. It's got decent production values, but it goes off in the kind of more into a fantasy realm, not necessarily more than a horror film, but it's not a straight-ahead slasher as I was hoping. So that was a bit of a meh, really, overall. But it's kind of worth a watch. It just didn't quite do what I was hoping it would do, which is to be a straight-ahead slasher. Have anyone else seen that?
No, I've not seen that.
No.
Isn't it? I think it's also just like AKA the windmill over here.
Yes. No, I think so. I mean, it's good. It's very nicely shot, and it's kind of got like say high production values, and it kind of looks really good. But it's one of those almost like those kind of. It's almost like more like a throwback to one of those Amicus things, which isn't in itself a bad thing. But like the people that have been brought together, they've all got their sins of the past. That type of you can probably tell where it's going with that. So.
Ooh, like Class Reunion Massacre.
Kind of, but more sort of like the kind of those Amicus things with like Joan Collett, when they're all sat downstairs and they've got the Grim Reaper and they're all kind of that type of thing. But yeah, it's definitely worth watch. The other I caught up with Cell, which is the Stephen King zombie kind of movie, which had oh god, I can't remember the names now.
Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack, isn't it?
Exactly, yes, both of them in it. And it started off really well, but again, it was a bit of a... I haven't read the book, but I know the film didn't get great reviews, and I think it was filmed and shelved for a few years before it kind of finally sort of came out. I think I saw it on Netflix, I think. But and it was okay, but it was it wasn't great. Anyone else seen that?
No.
And another no.
No.
Okay. The other one I did see, which kind of is not a slasher movie, but it was kind of which looked quite interesting was a kind of social media horror movie type thing, but it wasn't quite. Was a film called Ratter, which is about a woman who's at university, and her whole apartment's been rigged with spy cameras, and somebody's watching her, and you see basically everything through like her phone and the cameras in her apartment, and she's been getting weird messages from somebody. And then you've got this cast of characters that it could be the person who is kind of stalking her, and you don't find out until the very end who it is. It's got one fantastic scare at the end, but overall it's a bit of a meh. It's a very short film, it's about 80 minutes, but it's basically just about 80 minutes of her talking with her girlfriends over a glass of wine and playing Wii Fit, which doesn't make for the most thrilling movie.
Well, despite the Wii Fit, I thought that would be more up your alley if they were just sitting around talking.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed those bits. Obviously, I can relate to that, but it's an okay watch. But it wasn't. And also, what the film called?
What was this called?
Ratter.
Okay.
Ratter. But that was it's worth a watch. But it was kind of, and also actually the ending itself is you just think it's one of those endings. You're thinking, well, surely there's more to this than what they come up with without going to massive amount of details. But it was a bit of a kind of like not a head scratcher, but it just didn't really conclude in the way you think it might do. But anyway, those are what I've been watching recently. Just thinking ahead, shall we cut to the before we go on to Final Destination, or shall we wait until after we've spoken about the movie? Let's keep it to the end, I think. Let's because good things come to those who wait, and obviously Erik's one of Erik's classic jokes.
It is. It's a classic. A classic.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll have that as a little treat towards the end of the podcast. But without further ado, I kind of guess, shall we go straight into Final Destination?
His entire high school class is going to Paris, but Alex Browning can't seem to shake his fear of flying. Once aboard the plane, he has a violently disruptive premonition which gets him and five of his classmates kicked off the plane. As the students watch the plane depart, they witness the horrifying disaster that proves that the deadly premonition true. Now, having cheated death once, the terror begins in full as fate hunts them down one by one. Soon, the survivors will discover you can't cheat death in this bone-chillingly suspenseful film that critics call a first-class, edge-of-your-seat thriller. Okay, Final Destination for me was one of those wild theater experiences that kind of stuck with me, especially on the drive home after kind of looking over my shoulder for signs of impending doom. Having watched it this week for the first time in about 15 years, maybe, I was surprised at how much the film kind of annoyed me, to be honest. I think it's a well-made thriller. Don't get me wrong. It takes a slasher film premise and kind of removes the actual slasher. I can't shake the feeling, though, that it kind of relies too much on the idiot plot and especially idiot characterization to kind of keep the story going. Let's see. Roger Ebert once remarked about Die Hard and the Chief Robinson character in particular, that his characterization kind of stalled an otherwise expertly crafted thriller. And I think that's what half the cast in Final Destination do. They exist kind of only to be basically fundamentally wrong about everything or to be just naysayers. I mean, there's one point where, after Alex Browning has this premonition that obviously comes true, and basically later figures out that death is coming back to collect, all the unpaid debts. These characters still think he's either wrong or he's at fault somehow. And I guess they kind of need to be to create some of the silly drama or to kind of set them up to be picked off by death in the film's, gruesome set pieces. It's kind of maddening, really, but the film otherwise, I think while it's likable popcorn fluff, I think it could have been, much tighter and much scarier with better characterization. Not to say that I didn't dislike the characters. I just think some of them were only there just to kind of nag, which is kind of disappointing. I think Devon Sawa in particular, whatever happened to him, I thought he was really good as, Alex, and I could just sit and stare all day at Allie Larder. Yummy. I also enjoyed the cameo by Tony Todd. You know, even if his coroner character was kind of nothing more than an exposition dump. But you know, who else to placate the audience's taste for info on death and Candyman himself, right? And of course, you know, the death sequences are all well crafted, kind of gore gags, you know, that would eventually become, you know, much more grandiose and Rube Goldberg-esque in the sequels. You know, overall, I'm going to give this a slightly higher than marginal recommendation, but I think for me, the Final Destination films is a kind of a series that I personally believe kind of starts off a little shaky, but it gets better. You know, parts 2 and 5 in particular being standouts for me, but I won't talk about those this episode. What about you, Erik?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, I hadn't seen this one since it came out in 2000. Because we've spoken about this before. I'm not a fan of flying, and I find the plane crash sequence at the start a little too unnerving. So it's never. It's not. I own all the other Friday. I was going to say Friday the 13th Final Destination movies, but I've never owned Part 1. Fortunately, it was on Irish television a few weeks ago, so I didn't even have to go the Baby Jesus route to acquire it. Looking back now, the plane crash sequence is not as great. It's brilliantly staged, but it's not as grim as I remember. But it's not something I would watch in the build up to going away on my holidays. There's also that choking scene of the Todd character always got to me as well. It just looks so it's so painful to watch. It makes me wince. I don't know what it is about it. It's just the idea of being choked by sort of fine wire, almost being garroted. It just makes me ugh. I remember at the time I did love the film, and I wasn't sure how I'd feel 17 years on, but I was quite surprised to say that the film still holds up. What I did notice, and you've mentioned this as well, Joseph, is that the film probably isn't as pacey as the subsequent movies in the series, and the death scenes aren't as ridiculously elaborate. You know, in terms of death scenes, it's definitely the weakest in the series. Although that opening, 10-15 minutes is still really spectacular, and there's maybe 2 spectacular deaths in there that would rival anything in the sequels. But overall, it feels like that Raw debut album. It's good, but the creators sort of grow more into their roles as the series goes on. And the body count in this one feels substantially lower. I'm not sure, I haven't investigated, but it feels much lower. And the death sequences don't feel as drawn out. Some of them are over quite quickly. I do like Devon Sawa as well, I have to say. I'm pretty sure Nathan and Justin will have lots to say about him as well, if I have predicted things correctly. Am I right?
He's very attractive.
Yes, although I'd say they probably like the bully character played by Kerr Smith probably even more. I don't like bullies, though, but I'm pretty sure Justin and Nathan will make an exception for this guy. Yeah, so the whole raison d'etre for the Final Destination series are those death sequences, which are carefully choreographed stunts that are like the game Mousetrap. I've seen it being compared to before, where an innocuous initial incident leads to a cascade of smaller incidents that basically build up to disaster. And they're not, as Joseph was saying, they're just not as spectacular in this one as they are in the sequels. I think if this had been a standalone film and there had been no sequels, maybe I'd look back on it more fondly. But knowing that sort of from parts 2 onwards, it just gets more and more ridiculous and more fun. It does seem like it sort of pales, in comparison to them. So yeah, it's weird to say that, because normally the first entry in a franchise is usually the strongest. So it's weird to say that with Final Destination, the first entry is probably one of the weakest. Even though I still think it's a good movie, and I still would recommend it to watch. And one of the great things, I suppose, about Final Destination as a whole, the series as a whole, is that the films are so consistent. And what they've done is that they've recognized what the established formula is, and they don't tamper with it. I mean, each film is more or less interchangeable, apart from they just insert more and more ludicrous and spectacular death scenes. But plot-wise, they're all pretty much the same. And that's, from a fan's perspective, that's a great thing. I'm not sure critics like that type of thing, which is why they hated the Friday the 13th series, for example. Yeah, so as odd as it is to say, as good a film as Final Destination is, I think the subsequent 4 films are better, including the 4th one, which I think a lot of people don't like as much. But yeah, that's my tuppence on it.
Very good. Nathan?
I kind of agree with both of you. Well, one thing I wanted to say was I think that Kerr Smith, the actor, is extremely attractive, but his character, his character in this movie drove me completely crazy. For most of the movie, he spends wanting to beat up Alex, whose only crime I can think of is saving his life. So like, oh, you saved my life,
twice.
So I'm going to try to beat you up like this whole, rest of the film. And I felt like, several of the survivors, like the teacher, Miss Luton, they were mean to Alex. And he, it would be kind of a scary situation. I mean, he did save their life at that plane crash, and they're just so mean to him.
It's like, you saved my life, asshole.
I know. That's what when you were talking about the characters, I completely agree, because that's how I felt when I was rewatching. I'm like, get over yourselves. He saved your life. I mean, I'd want to hang around him. Hey, is that car going to hit me if I cross the street? I know.
A bit of gratitude, people. Yeah.
Yeah, a little gratitude goes a long way. But, I mean, I really loved the movie when I first saw it. I still love it. But, again, I agree with you guys. I feel like I've been spoiled on all the sequels, because I love in the sequels where, it'll focus on a character and you already know that character's about to die, but it shows you all these different things happening, so you don't know what's going to be the ultimate death of this character. And I really got spoiled on these grand, death scenes that are real over the top. So the ones in this one actually felt a little tame in comparison. I mean, I still love them though. I love the railroad tracks death. I thought that was fun. So I mean, it is a good movie, and I enjoyed it just as much as I did when I first watched it. Like Eric, the thought of dying in a plane crash is absolutely terrifying to me. Like, I really, really hope that's not the way I end up going. So I really, really get unnerved as well by, plane crashes in movies. And this one, I, get very unnerved when I watch that scene. I think plane crashes are, scary, very, very scary. That's why I usually have to take several Xanax before I get on an airplane. But the one thing I love about all the Final Destination movies is, the big premonition scenes. And I feel like the premonition scenes in every single one of them are always very well done. And, usually a lot of fun. So, I feel like it's an example of they took everything from the first Final Destination and just, kind of made it better, with the sequels. And that's not, again, to take anything away from, the first one, because I really did enjoy the first one. I like the characters for the most part, like Joe said, some of them kind of got on my nerves. I love the bus death that, was in the sound clip at the beginning. Because that one was one of those scenes that when I saw it in the theater, it took me a second to even register what had just happened. Because it's so fast, just like before you know it, it's done. And I also absolutely love the final shot of this movie when, it's like, so who's next? And bam. And you guys know what I'm talking about. So, no, I mean, a really fun movie. I mean, I would definitely give it a high recommendation.
And Justin?
Well, there's going to be no sort of... I think we can all be kind of agreeing. I mean, I remember distinctly watching this at the cinema in 2000 or 2001 when it came out in the UK, and really loving it. And again, it's kind of coming back to it now. It looks very dated. Of course, it's like 17 years ago, but it feels... I don't know. I think it's probably the over-familiarity. I agree with some of the later sequels. I particularly liked Love Part 5. And Part 2 was really good. Now it's got loads of good things in it. I think Devon Sawa is a great kind of hero. He's got the right. It's the perfect face. I mean, he's kind of just like.
No, he does. He's really good in this, and he was really good in Idle Hands as well, which was around the same time. Yeah, and as Joseph was saying, whatever happened to him.
Well, I think he's still about. I was looking at he's still making films and stuff, or making TV. He's on TV now with many. But he was kind of. It's interesting. I was looking at some of the cast, and Kerr Smith is 7 years old. Some of the cast, there were quite a difference in ages with them, because I think Kerr Smith was 7 years older than Devon Sawa, and I think the woman who played, what was her name? The
Mrs. Luton.
Amanda Detner. Well, Amanda Detner is like Terry Chaney. She was, right. I think she's about 7 years older as well. But yeah, the woman who played Mrs. Luton, she was in the Black Christmas remake, wasn't she?
Yes, because she's married to Glenn Morgan, is it?
Yeah, I don't. She always looks. I thought she was much older, but actually she's same age as me. So obviously,
yeah. I was surprised as well when I was looking up the IMDb.
Because she was only about in her early 30s when she made this, but she looks older, doesn't she?
I think she does. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's a great film. It's kind of, I think sometimes there's certain films I can watch over and over again, like the Friday 13th films, but with this film, it's. I enjoyed it, but I kind of knew what was going to be happening, and it was kind of you waiting for the next death scene. I think it's kind of interesting with the whole thing with, I don't know if it was intentional, but the idea that Devon Sawa was kind of, they were all kind of freaked out by him, and I think it was possibly with, I don't know if there was a kind of religious thing coming in there, or it's not explicit, but the fact is that they basically saw him saying about him being a witch or something. It was kind of like black magic or something. And I wondered if that was the reason why they were all kind of really freaked out around him, because it was kind of like an unchristian thing. It's kind of some like weird sort of magic thing going on, that he could see the future or predict the future.
Are you saying Christians not the concept based on magic?
Well, of course. Well, yes, I'm sure we'd lose any Christian viewers if they knew my. I think we've spoken about that before, but yeah, no, it was that was interesting. I thought maybe they could have gone a little bit more with that if they had like all the villagers turn up with pitchforks and chase after him being a witch or something. Yeah, I really like the ending. I think the ending's great with that kind of the thing in Paris when they finally get to Paris, and there's kind of they've thrown quite a lot of money at this film, haven't they? I mean, it's not it's quite a spectacular film in a lot of ways, and like Erik was saying, the beginning bit with the plane, I think is like a real masterclass in tension and the humour with the whole John Denver thing going on, and it was just really, really well done. I think it's like bookended by two fantastic sequences, but the rest of it kind of. When it turns into then Ali Lata's kind of the scene where her whole house is like turning into this massive electrical storm almost. It's kind of quite spectacular, but it just almost jumps the shark a little bit for me. It just gets a bit too, over the top, a bit too silly. But yeah, no, I like it. I kind of. And I think it's interesting that idea. Putting it into the kind of the time scale it was, which was just pre 9/11, wasn't it? It was made the year before. 9/11. So it was kind of that whole idea that if this film couldn't have been made the next year, could it? It wouldn't have been made after the whole plane crash idea of things, and it was and obviously covered on the coattails of Scream, or 4 years after Scream. So it was like kind of looking for this. It's kind of fresh idea of kind of having a teen slasher without the physical slasher. I thought it was a really interesting kind of concept. And it does its what like any really good simple concept, it kind of bears repeating, and I think I do enjoy some of the later films. Although I seem to remember, wasn't the roller coaster one, was that part 3?
That was 3.
Yes.
And the 4 was the speed car one, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
The meat, and those are pretty bad, weren't they?
No.
Or not as good. Were they not bad? I thought they were, especially the speed car one was quite cheap looking, I seem to remember.
I liked it.
I liked them just for kind of the cheese factor. I thought they were
the
just
3D
kind of
was
fun.
great. Yeah.
And the 3D was excellent in part 5. Oh, I love the 3D in that movie.
Well, going off of what Justin was talking about the religious nature, kind of undertones of this film, I noticed that as well, and it kind of lends itself to death actually being sort of although he's not like physically manifested. It's obviously death, whereas in the sequels, it's more along the lines of just accidents. Where this one's like obvious, some kind of specter from beyond is obviously stalking these kids. So it kind of ties into with all the religious stuff that Justin had pointed out. I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of. I thought that it was kind of I also remember seeing it was either in Fangoria or Gore Zone or one of those magazines. But seems to be quite a lot of gore was cut from this film, because I remember certainly the death scene with the bus scene where the woman gets hit by the bus, and I remember seeing like kind of basically it's a kind of human skid mark of like her body and bits of her, yeah, but kind of on the on the ground. With it.
I know.
What? But that wasn't in the film, so I think they kind of either they toned down the violence, which became more extreme. Because in some ways it was kind of it was like a game with something like you had Friday the 13th, where you had like the gore was the go-to thing, and and then it got toned down because of censorship, and it was almost they didn't quite go the full Monty with this kind of gore-wise, but it was playing around with it, and then they did more so with the later sequels.
I think I know what you're talking about with the Fango. Weren't they originally supposed to show the aftermath of Terry's death, but they did not. They showed the blood like on their shocked faces instead.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing a picture of like basically her in front of the bus and then just gore all along the street or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I remember seeing. Yeah.
All I could think of is how that bus driver should be in huge trouble for speeding through that city area like that. That bus was going pretty fast.
Well, it's kind of silly. I mean, the death is kind of spectacular and kind of gets you by surprise. But in realistically, I mean, would they not see or hear this bus coming?
Well, she was standing in the street for like about 5 or 10 seconds, screaming at her friends. Would the bus driver not see her? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, when they hear this giant bus going,
maybe Death was driving the bus.
Maybe.
Yeah, could be.
And controlling her eardrums.
Yeah.
But you got the did you get the reference, the classic horror movie reference with that?
With what? The bus scene?
Drop effing dead.
The bus. No, it's because you know that. Well, I mean, not come into background just yet, but all the characters were named after famous.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Browning,
Hitchcock, Luton, Horton,
Browning. Yeah.
But the bus, because remember the whole idea of there's a very famous scare sequence in the original Cat People, where she thinks she's being chased by somebody, the main character, and she's walking past the zoo and she thinks there's someone, and then she turns around and suddenly a bus pulls in, and it's silently, so it kind of comes into shot, and it made everyone jump, and it was kind of called The Bus. Those kind of ideas of those kind of shock scenes where something just suddenly appears and makes people sort of jump. So I think that was a kind of reference to Val Luton and sort of the Cat People, but in a much more gory way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, does anybody have anything else to say about the film? I got some background info. So
it's a good film though, and I think if anybody actually by this point hasn't seen it, I think it will be worth watching for sure.
It's definitely more kind of moribund and kind of serious, whereas the other ones are more comical in their kind of elaborate and how elaborate they get. But I'll save that for when we cover the rest of them.
Well, I don't want to get into the sequels too much, but I did want to say that I much prefer a sequel like 2 where most of the characters kind of stick together. Rather than nobody believing anybody.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. Background info. Anyone?
Yeah. Cool.
Nathan.
Yeah. I have. I found a few things. I know that the story was originally a concept for the X-Files. I've never seen the X-Files, by the way. Crazy enough.
Really?
Neither have I. That's crazy. I haven't either.
Have you
I've never watched a full episode. I've never watched a full episode of the X-Files. I've seen the two. I saw the 2 movies.
I saw one, and it was so cheesy. I just couldn't get myself into the series.
Really, I used to watch it religiously. I didn't watch the new series because apparently it was pants, but
it was what?
Pants. Rubbish.
Like khakis.
Oh, khakis. Okay. Sorry. My translation's kind of a bit off once in a while. But hey, I learn something new every day. Clear, interesting name that she has in this movie. Y'all like that name, Clear Rivers?
Yeah, her parents were hippies.
Yeah, apparently. But her cabin was also the cabin from Lake Placid with that killer alligator. I like gators.
Who eats one of the Golden Girls?
No, I thought she survived.
Oh, does she? Or maybe I thought.
I actually think she was feeding cows to it.
Oh, right. Okay. I haven't seen Lake Placid in quite a while.
Debbie.
Let's see. And I did look up the opening disaster, and actually it said on the IMDb that it's actually the shortest opening disaster of all the 5 films, as it only lasts about 2 minutes. And actually, to be honest, I was thinking about the opening disasters for all the movies, and this one may be. It's still really great. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but it may be my least favorite. I think I prefer the over the topness of the other opening disasters. So, that's just my opinion. But so yeah, I found a few facts. See.
Well done.
There we go.
Wow.
Thank you for browsing IMDb, Nathan.
Well, you're welcome. It was very tough for me, but I said, Nathan, you got this.
Well, I imagine Eric and Nathan will Eric and Justin will probably have a little more than I do, so I'll just rattle off what I have here.
I wouldn't bet on that.
Well, the production was May 25th of 99 through August 13th of 99 on a budget of $23 million. So for the time period, that was a lot of money. Made a domestic gross of around $53 million. The original plan was to have death as a much more obvious entity in the film, as I pointed out earlier, as it was in Todd's death, with Todd seeing a shadow in the mirror and then the water running back into the toilet to cover its tracks. After Todd's death, it was decided to have the death simply kind of be more accidental in nature. The alternate ending of the movie was shot. It involves Clear being pregnant with Alex's baby. Alex had originally died in the electrical climax of the film. The exterior of Miss Luton's house was built in 5 days, and the residents of the Vancouver town in which it was built didn't want the filmmakers to blow it up because they thought it was a nice house. And let's see. In South Korea, the film is simply titled Destination. And that's pretty much all I have on the film.
Okay, will I go next?
Sure.
Okay, well, yeah, Glenn Morgan and James Wong had previously written the 1984 film The Boys Next Door, which I remember seeing trailers for a lot back in the 80s, but I never actually watched. It stars Maxwell Caulfield and Charlie Sheen. But, of course, they found fame then writing for X-Files and Millennium. Jeffrey Reddick, who wrote the spec script, which, as Nathan said, was initially pitched as an episode for the X-Files, he went on to write the screenplay for Steve Miner's rather dull 2008 film Day of the Dead. He was also the executive producer on Final Destination 2. James Wong, I always thought he went on to a really spectacular directing career, but when I was looking at his credits, like, he directed The One starring Jackie Chan, and he did Final Destination 3, but he hasn't done a whole lot since, so I must be mixing him up with somebody else. Glenn Morgan, some of his other credits, he went into directing after this, and he made the remakes of Willard, which I didn't like, and Black Christmas, which I did. He was also an uncredited writer on Trick or Treat, which is the 1986 heavy metal movie starring Skippy Handelman. I can't remember, is Trick or Treat a slasher movie? Is it something we could cover? Or is it not a slasher movie?
It's close enough, I'd say.
Yeah, well, I suppose by our standards, it's close enough, yeah. As I said, Kristen Cloak, who plays Val Luton, is Glenn Morgan's wife. Nepotism, but she's a good actress, so she deserved the role. Kerr Smith, he went on to be in My Bloody Valentine. I can't remember who he is in My Bloody Valentine because all of those sort of pretty boys.
He played Axel Palmer.
The sheriff.
Oh, yes. Yeah, as you said, the budget was $23 million. It made $112 million worldwide. It didn't hit number 1 in the box office, so it only made number 3 in the US. It debuted behind Erin Brockovich and Mission to Mars, but it did stay in the box office top 100 for a massive 22 weeks. And that's about all I have on Final Destination, I'm afraid. Justin, over to you.
Well, you've covered most of the stuff already, but I was going to say that it's kind of the story is kind of based on a real life event, not obviously the kind of death stalking survivors, but there was a real flight that exploded called Flight 180, I think it was, Flight 800, TWA Flight 800, yeah. And it was actually carrying a French class going to Paris, an American. That's the
incident that stopped me flying for about 5 years.
Is it?
From 96 to 2001, 2, I didn't fly, yeah. because of that incident.
No.
Yeah.
The only other thing I've got is mentioned that Kerr Smith and Sean William Scott, they apparently had to take travel sickness pills, because I'm presuming when they shot that flight, they probably had on a huge soundstage and the whole thing was being shaken around. So they had to stop, and apparently that's the reason why it doesn't really focus on them, because they look so ill throughout that. So it doesn't sound like
I can sympathise with them. I'm a travel sickness person as well.
Well, I know.
Do you have anything that's not on IMDb, Justin?
That wasn't on
Rhubarb
IMDb,
Lady's Revenge.
Fuck you, go mind your own business.
Surely you've got a copy of like the Daily Mail or something that just tells what the box office was.
I don't think Justin would have a copy of the Daily Mail.
I don't have a copy of the Daily Mail. Why would they have the Daily Mail have the box office for? No, I don't actually know what the box office for this was.
Why was it not? I told you what it was. It was 112 million.
Yeah, so did I. I said 53 in the States. 53 in the States. You said 100 and something worldwide. So
yeah,
it's a $23 million budget.
So Justin,
you
just get your facts from IMDb, and you don't listen to anything we say either. So
in Justin's defense, if you're not the one going first with the trivia, and you've got like a list of trivia, like I usually have to cross off stuff if I actually have something that you guys are saying. So it's hard to listen and like keep up with that at the same time.
Do any of you guys happen to know what the budget and the box office was on this movie?
I think it was 23 million was the budget, and I think it made 112 worldwide.
Hey, it made a big profit.
Alan Dale.
That's awesome.
Girl who is a cockroach or whatever.
With big hair.
I just popped away for 5 minutes to make a cup of tea. Were you saying something? Anyway.
A cup of tea or a glass of wine?
Yeah.
A cup of tea. I've had a couple of glasses of, a couple of cups of green tea this morning, so I'm feeling fresh as a daisy now. But actually talking
Have either of you ever had sweet tea?
What is sweet tea? Is that tea with sugar in it?
Yes.
Like lemon tea? Is that like Lipton's iced tea, that type of thing?
Yeah, you can use Lipton tea bags. If your tea bag,
I like tea bag.
You enjoy tea bagging? You enjoy tea bagging, do you, Nathan?
I stopped myself before I said it.
Sweet, sweet tea bag.
So that's a mental image, everyone, for you to take away on this lovely Sunday afternoon. But one thing, sorry, I was going to mention just very quickly before I forget. Did you see that Arrow are doing an all-night slaughterathon, summer camp slaughterathon at Prince Charles Cinema in summer?
Oh,
Eric?
No. What movies are they showing?
Let me look it up. They're going to be showing The Burning, Madman, The Mutilator, Blood Rage, and a mystery film, which is going to be the final film will be a forthcoming Arrow video slasher release, which is still yet to be announced. So, but
do we know what it is?
No, I don't think we do actually. So it's a mystery to us as well. So, but so that's in June. So I might be tempted. Would you be tempted to that, Eric?
I'm going to Portugal towards the end of June, so it depends when it is.
Okay. Well, anyway, we'll chat.
I'll be there.
Air, but
I'll be there.
You'll be there. Yeah, it'd be great. That would be great. We could have a little reunion.
It's walking distance, so.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, that was Final Destination. We haven't got a joke of the week, have you, Eric? Or have you got another one?
No, it's built in. No, it's built into Amanda's interview.
Okay.
Including live tumbleweed effects by her husband David.
Which sounds more like a cat, I seem to remember. But before we get on to that, should we do some? We'll do some kind of what? Do you want to read out, Joseph, what people have said about Final Destination on the Facebook group?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Tom Virtuoso says, at a time when the market was oversaturated with formulaic slashers, full of familiar faces and lousy, unrelated soundtracks, Final Destination was a fun romp on a simple concept with unpredictable consequences. For the most part, you knew who would be offed, but how it happened was always up for grabs. Also, the characters were actually tolerable for being so paper thin. What made these films stand out from the crop, though, was the major opening sequences. Ultimately, the second film would be my favorite of these. I still avoid logging trucks. Angela Rudig says, I loved Final Destination when it first came out. The flight scene at the beginning always freaked me out. I've never flown before. My first time flying will be this October when I go on my honeymoon. I'm sure the scene will pop into my head as the plane is taking off. The best thing about the franchise is the opening sequences. The third one still messes with me the most. At least it did when I was riding a roller coaster for the first time after watching it. Ha ha. All in all, it's a fun movie to watch, and for the most part, I've enjoyed all the sequels. Ara Alishan says, I remember enjoying the original in theaters back in the day, but for whatever reason, this series has never really appealed to me. I'll watch them on TV from time to time, but I've never felt the urge to add them to my collection. It's been mentioned before, but bears repeating. Ghost in the Machine had the same sort of set pieces several years earlier, and personally, I found that movie much more engaging and would definitely recommend it to fans of the podcast. Let's see. Bob Hartshorn says, a great start to a mostly great series. Death itself has got to be the ultimate boogeyman for any slasher franchise. Arguably morbid, but definitely thrilling. The underlying sense of dread and all-around nastiness never prevent it from being a fun ride. A pretty decent bunch of characters to root for, too. Not least Allie Larder, because she looks like my friend Vivienne. A Naughties classic, and have your friend Vivienne give me a call, if you would, Bob. David Cook says, I have never seen any of them, to be honest. Looking at the poster, it screams out to me, excuse the pun, that it is a late 90s, early Naughties horror with its portraits of attractive young folk against a dark background. Every other horror movie seemed to have a similar poster. Don Amici, or Don Anelli, I always call him Don Amici, says, fun, suspenseful, and far more intelligent than expected. The concept of death as a literal figure out causing accidents is rather original. The deaths are creative, and it still holds up to this day. And let's see. This one is from Simon Logan. And who? Simon Logan, that's who this one's from. And Simon Logan says, one of the rare cases of a post-Golden Era slasher which truly adds something new to the mix. Final Destination pairs back the slasher tropes to their core. The killer's motive is as simple as it can get. It kills because that is what it does. Taking the motives of killers like Jason or Michael and purifying them even further by removing any remaining vestiges of personality or humanity. Simon Logan goes on to say, death itself is coming for you and won't be stopped. Final Destination also ensures that the deaths are absolutely central, just as they are with any good slasher movie. But again, like Erik on a first date, it goes even deeper than most. Ooh, Simon Logan.
Simon Logan.
One of my favorite aspects about the series is how it plays with audience expectations about what is going to happen to each character, more so in the sequels than this one, which makes it a total thrill ride right the way through. Plus, having watched the alternate ending on the Blu-ray set we bought to start educating our 9-year-old daughter into horror movies. The first Final Destination is one of the rare examples of producer Bob Shaye's actually being right about works and what doesn't. A modern classic and a great series. And finally, this guy is not Simon Logan. It's Mitch King. He says, while I wouldn't call this franchise slasher films, I've always enjoyed them. Also one of the few post-'80s franchises that didn't completely jump the shark. And that's it.
What is the alternate ending for this film? Because I saw that there was a YouTube video, but I forgot to watch it.
Erik.
Yeah.
I mentioned this. It's clear being
Erik.
pregnant with Alex's child. Jesus Christ, Erik.
What? Oh, you mentioned it, did you? Oops.
Were you not listening, Erik?
No, I was too busy getting all my facts off IMDb. I was doing my research on IMDb.
The one thing I did not mention, though, was the budget and box office. Do you happen to know what that is?
I don't know. Justin knows, I think.
$10 to make the film, and it grossed over $100.
Wow.
Dollars.
Movies are expensive, yeah. Okay, I have some feedback. If we're doing feedback, are we doing feedback?
We're doing feedback.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're doing feedback.
This is from Ozzy. I'm just going to charge right in here, and I'm going to wait to be asked. This is from Ozzy Andy. He says, good day, guys. Happy late birthday wishes from your fan down under. I've been catching up with past episodes and just listened to episode 134, Axum. And boy, does that sound like an awful movie, and one I will keep my distance from. And you're well advised to. You guys keep me entertained at my day job while I sit at my desk, and I try not to laugh too much. I look forward to listening to the reviews of Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and Innocent Prey. I'm a massive horror fan, and when you guys review a movie, when you guys have reviewed a movie I've not seen, I always try and hunt it down, but I'll make an exception for Axum. And that's from Aussie Andy. And Aussie Andy, you are quite right to steer clear of Axum, because it is horrendous. And you might enjoy Innocent Prey because it's set in Australia for the most part, and it's got PJ Souls with a big perm.
Indeed.
A giant perm. I've got some feedback too.
Go for it, baby.
It says, "Hi to the new Fab Four," with an exclamation point. "Loving your podcast as ever. Looking forward to Dream Warriors, which sounds like it might be a doozy. Just thought I'd recommend a film to you. The odds are you've already seen it, but maybe some of your listeners haven't. It's 1977's Blue Sunshine, directed by Jeff Squirm Lieberman."
Yes, love it.
Yes, me too. It's been on my radar for about a decade, but I've just never got around to watching it. I've finally seen a lovely print of it, and wow, what a film. It absolutely drips menace from the first minute to last, and there is one image early on in the film, I won't spoil anything, but it's during a scene when a husband returns home to his wife. The shot in question has stuck in my memory for a fortnight and won't be leaving anytime soon. That scene, and the film in general, isn't especially violent, but malevolence simply oozes from the screen. I'd be interested to hear if you've seen it and your thoughts on the film. Anyway, keep up the good work. Your podcasts have become the most important element of my running routine. I have you four to thank for the truly stunning physique I now sport. Lots of love, Rob Hemsley from sunny North Wales.
Yes, I have seen Blue Sunshine. What's the Blue Sunshine and Susie and the Banshees link, Justin?
The glove.
Well done. Bravo. A shiny sixpence for you.
And I got the blue vinyl of that as well.
Oh, very nice. Yes, I do. I love all Jeff Lieberman's films from that era. You know, Squirm, Blue Sunshine, Just Before Dawn. Yeah, Blue Sunshine's great. It's got those. I suppose it's not a spoiler to say the weird killers who are completely bald and look a bit weird. Yeah, it's kind of lo-fi. It's kind of David Cronenberg-ish.
I haven't seen it, Eric.
Oh. That's not a spoiler. It's kind of revealed in the opening few minutes, isn't it?
It's also on the artwork for.
It's also on all the artwork for it. Yeah.
Luckily for you, I have seen it. So.
Okay, I always forget.
I've seen it too, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, great movie.
Justin, are you a fan of Blue Sunshine the movie, not the album?
Yes. Well, I haven't seen it for years, but I used to have the VHS of it, so I remember it's kind of like a Manson-esque thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I suppose that was probably the inspiration.
Yeah,
and so it makes a very pertinent message about drug use or something.
Yes. Yeah,
like something Cocteau would do.
Thank you, Debbie.
Don't you agree?
Yes. No, but yeah, Blue Sunshine's great. It's probably not a film we would cover on the podcast, although God knows, maybe. No.
Well, no, I hear Joseph's going to pick it soon.
And then he's going to pick Little Miss Sunshine.
I just might.
Actually, is Final Destination a listener pick?
No, it's not.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, it's not. Yeah. We're moving back to listener picks shortly, aren't we? Well, after the next one. But Joseph,
we're doing franchises, and this is one franchise we haven't done, so I thought I'd just do that.
Fair enough. Have you got any feedback, or have you done your bit, Joseph?
Oh, I'm spent.
You're spent. Well, okay. Right, well, here we go. Hi, guys. Not sure whether you pick up... I should ignore the double entendre. But hi, guys. Not sure whether you pick up messages on your Facebook page, so I thought I'd send another message this way. Apologies, this is my third. I have a couple of questions. During each podcast, you mention a number of movies, some good, some bad, but there's usually one or two that sound worth a view. The trouble is, by the end of the podcast, I've often forgotten them. So I wondered how easy it would be for you to post a list of movies discussed in the most recent podcast on your Facebook page. I appreciate everyone is busy, so it may not be feasible. Under normal circumstances, I'll write them down, but I don't usually listen. I usually listen on to you while I drive into work. Anyway, just thought I'd mention it. So I don't know if that's something we could do.
No, he's going to have to pull over to the side of the road and...
Okay.
Write them down in
Right.
Jotter, yeah.
Yes, okay. But the other thing it says is, secondly, have you seen the 1988 Dutch slasher? Funnily enough, we were talking, obviously, Windmill Massacre was another Dutch slasher, Amsterdammed. It's very entertaining, though the running time is a bit long. It pays homage to the Jally, Jaws, Friday the 13th, James Bond, etc. I know that it sounds bizarre, but it does work. To be honest, it's a little low on the gore, and it does have some comedic elements that won't please everyone. But I do recommend it, even if only as a one-off viewing. Also, I'd love to add it as a potential future suggestion to cover, as I'd be intrigued to hear everyone's thoughts. It's available on YouTube with English subtitles in case anyone hasn't seen it, and that's from Jay. Yes, I have seen Amsterdam, not for many years, but I remember it's got the scuba diving killer, isn't it, with a harpoon gun, I think.
That's
Yeah,
Fatal
it's,
Games. Is that not Fatal Games?
What, a scuba diver?
Well, there's one of the kills is underwater in Fatal Games. That was my
right
link. No?
No, but you've seen it, Erik, Amsterdam.
Yeah, 20 odd years ago. I can't remember anything about it. I remember not liking it, but that was in the era when I wasn't really into giallo or European horror. So I'm sure my opinion will have changed.
Okay, yeah. What about you two, Nathan and Joseph? Have you seen it?
I have. It was quite entertaining, but a little long in the tooth, though.
I saw it. I don't think I was a huge fan when I saw it, to be honest. I feel like I thought it was okay at best. But one of those movies that, once I saw it, I was like, I'll probably never watch this again. And I haven't.
Okay, that's another one for the future Blu-ray release. The quote from Hysteria continues.
Yeah.
I'll never watch it again.
It was okay,
continues.
but I'll never watch it again.
We need to big up these movies so we can be quoted on box art. But yeah, it's definitely one that we've got an awful lot of listener picks to get through coming. So we've got a lot to get through. But who knows in the future? Definitely, if we're still around in the year 2052, then maybe we'll return to Amsterdam. So yes, okay. Well,
I have another one.
Oh, you have another one, okay.
I have one more, yes. And this is from Scott Pliskin. He says, hey guys, listen to the Nightmare on Elm Street 3 episode. I think it's the best sequel, but I as well probably watched it too many times in my life. It's now more a movie I have playing in the background. For the round table of whether Freddy is rude, I think he is. He calls every woman a bitch, and he makes fun of the handicapped, much like Joseph, I think. Are you going to defend yourself? No, that wasn't. Scott Pliskin didn't say that. I added that bit in. Sorry.
No, that's what I'm saying to you. Hey, when do I make fun of the handicapped?
Well, you call every woman a bitch.
No, I don't. You're the one.
You're quite often
and Justin are the ones calling people the C word.
Yeah, y'all say the C word a lot.
Justin said that, not me.
I'm nothing if not a dignified man.
Okay,
but
Scott goes on.
Fun of Erik.
Sorry? What was that?
No, so Joseph does make fun of Erik, so...
Yeah.
So I do not.
Don't give it out if you can't take it, B.
Eric's got a starring role in our new movie, so why would I make fun of him?
Oh, yeah, he's playing passenger number 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, Scott moves on and says, as for Craven's original Nightmare 3 script, it is an interesting read, but I do think Russell and Darabont made a lot of improvements in the rewrite. In Craven's script, Nancy just randomly meets Neil out in the middle of nowhere. He brings her along to his workplace, which just happens to be a mental hospital with kids dreaming of Freddy, and even her dad is a patient. Well, that's quite a coincidence there. You guys mentioned the Nightmare movies, but have you watched the Freddy's Nightmares TV show or read the 1990s comics? The show is mostly pretty terrible, but the episodes where Freddy is actually in the storyline are pretty good. It's like getting mini sequels. I'm looking forward to listening to the Final Destination episode. Can't wait to hear what Simon Logan thinks of it. Speaking of Simon Logan, did you know that if you look in a mirror and say his name 5 times, Simon Logan will appear, and he'll tell you what Simon Logan thinks of a movie once Simon Logan has gotten around to watching it. and that's from Scott Pliskin. Not Scott Logan, or Simon Logan, even. Anyway, Freddy's Nightmares, the TV show. I remember it being dreadful. I remember being disappointed.
It's amazing.
But I remember it came on ITV in sort of 88, 89, and I didn't realize at the time that Freddy wasn't going to be in every episode. So I was gutted when I started watching it. It was a big disappointment. I never read the comics, but Freddy's Nightmares TV show, I'm sure it probably has a cheesy charm to it now, so I'd like to revisit it. But at the time, I didn't enjoy it.
I remember it being pretty bad, but at least it had Freddy in some episodes, whereas the Friday the 13th series did not have Jason at all.
I know, but apparently, I have no real recollection of the Friday the 13th TV series, but apparently it's quite well regarded. People do like it. Like it got good reviews.
I don't remember either of them. It's been so long since I've seen either of them. I would like to see both of them just to kind of see,
I'm not a fan of the Friday the 13th show because I thought, can you imagine if they would have done like little hour-long mini slashers every episode? That would have been amazing. Yeah. But instead we get a bunch of supernatural malarkey.
Yeah, but there's a nice daddy bear in the shop.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to at least look on the bright side at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
But Freddy's Nightmares, I think what I loved is it really is bad. Like, it's a really terrible show, but it's just so cheesy entertaining because it's so bad. That's why I like it so much.
I don't think I've ever seen a single episode of the Freddy TV series, so
no?
I can't really comment on that. No, I don't think so. Was it shown over here?
It was shown on ITV sort of like at 2:00 in the morning. And I remember taping it and getting up the next day watching it and going, where exactly is Freddy? Because certainly in those first few episodes, he is a compere, I suppose, that he tops and tails every show, didn't he? But
he's like narrates he's like in the opening before they show the actual episode.
But the majority of them he isn't in, so it's kind of like nothing to do with the Elm Street series as such for the most part. And they looked really cheap as well.
Yes.
Well,
yes,
I think that's the problem. We talked about that, didn't we, before? Because I read his autobiography, the Robert Englund's one, and he basically said all of the Elm Street films were quite cheap. It was kind of everything was cheap about them, although they didn't necessarily look it. But he said they all had to slum, or the cast had to slum all the way through, making most of them. So it sounds like they did the same with the TV show. But there you go. So, well, thank you for all that feedback and our play, how to get in contact with the show. So here, so do contact us either through Facebook or via these means.
The content of this podcast was provided by Justin Kurzweil, Erik Frillfall, Nathan Johnson, and Joseph Henson. If you enjoy our program and are willing and able to provide a donation, please visit us on Patreon and become a content-designated subscriber. That's patreon.com/The Hysteria Continues. For non-subscriber PayPal donations and general feedback, our address is the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com. To listen and interact, simply search for The Hysteria Continues on iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Susie versus Toya forever.
Exactly. We'd love to hear from you, so get writing or get phoning and tell us who's best, Susie or Toya. And I think we already...
Do you know one of the most shocking things about our weekend in London 2 weeks ago was that we asked Gore Blimey who did he prefer, Toya or Susie, and his answer was he doesn't really have an opinion on either, which I was shocked by.
I was shocked as well, Erik. I think we found some mutual ground there, didn't we?
Yes, finally, yes.
Yes.
I'm kind of in the same boat with him. Seriousness, before I met you two, I'd never heard of either one of them. Now that I've listened to some of their music, now that I have.
Do you not get Celebrity Cash in the Attic over there?
No, I don't think so. We get Antique Roadshow.
Yeah, she was on Celebrity Antiques Road Trip. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, so I learned about them through you guys.
Well, there you go. We're spreading the love, aren't we, Erik?
Yes,
we are. Spreading the gospel,
but the gospel according to Susie. So anyway, let's moving on. Let's Susie. Let's. I think it's time now to return to a drunken night about 2 weeks ago in London town, where we discuss with Amanda about her book and various other things. But so we're going to cut to that, and then we're going to come back after this and tell you what we're going to be recording next time. Well, here we are in London, in the glamorous Travel Lodge, which is next to the Hilton in London Town.
It's the same price as the Hilton.
It's actually next to the Travel Lodge.
It's next to Travel Lodge. Well, it's very, very expensive here. It's London prices, so as we won't go into what we're expecting for. Well, Erik wanted a happy finish for that by Hoskins for that with a mint on his pillow. So anyway, we're here with Amanda Reyes, aka Amanda by Night, who's been in London doing a release of her new book, which we both got a copy of, and it looks fantastic. So, Amanda, we're hoping Amanda's going to come on the programme pretty soon, the podcast, to talk some TV horror. So, Amanda, you're in London, and how did it go?
It went really well. I went to the Miskatonic Institute of Horror Studies to talk about TV horror films and to promote my book, Are You in the House Alone? A TV Movie Compendium, 1964 to 1999. And I didn't get to talk as much about Valerie Harper as I would have liked, but I did get to talk about Don't Go to Sleep and about how fabulous David Hasselhoff is.
Excellent. Well, that's always good. I'm just trying to make sure if it's still recording. It is still recording, so that's good. Because I always joke on the podcast that it's not recording, and Erik always gives a gay gasp. Don't you, Erik? Yeah, that's patented. But it's 6 minutes past midnight, so it's a proper stay up late, and so we're sitting around with chips and kebab. Well, it's a hummus.
Eat a falafel thingy.
Eat a falafel thingy, and we've got a little nightcap before we hit the hay. But yeah. So anything else we need to talk about? Joke of the week. Joke of the week. Yeah, Joe. So Erik's got joke of the week. So if you've been missing those.
So Amanda here, our good friend from the States, who's over here for the book launch, she reminds me a lot of Jason Voorhees.
Why is that?
Why is that? Because he's also a man that raised from the dead. Amanda Reyes. A man that raised from the dead. That's a good one, isn't it, Justin?
Yeah. Cue tumbleweed sound. Can you make a tumbleweed sound for us, David? That's a cat. That's his pussy purring. Yeah, and as you know, we don't have video podcasts, but yeah, David is Amanda's husband, who's joined her for the jaunt to London. Haven't you been sampling? So this is fascinating. This is what the podcast. This is a podcast magic. This is
behind the curtains, baby.
This is behind the curtains.
What it looks like.
Yeah, it's exactly what it looks like, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
I don't have anything funny to say now.
So is that kind of, unless you want to say something, David? Well, actually, David was talking to someone very famous earlier. You probably won't be able to say who. Can you say who?
Sure. Just saying hi to my friend Larry Zerner, because you guys interviewed him and you were talking about how great it was, and I was just giving him props and sending him your props, and he said that it was nice to talk to you.
Excellent.
So, to be perfectly honest, we've been name dropping all night.
All night. Yes.
All night. It's been the rich and famous of the horror world.
One of the things David has neglected to mention is that he is a computer game developer, so he's worked on the Saw computer game, so he knows Lee Winnell and James Wan.
Yes.
So we're in the company of Hollywood royalty.
I also talked about wanting to sleep with Kane Hodder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because she was fascinated by his burn scars.
And his bent forks.
And he bent my fork once.
Yes. Well, yeah, it's been that kind of evening. But and also there's been talk of R.I.P. Bob Hoskins. Yeah, it's been too soon, isn't it? It's too soon.
For the sex jokes, for the necrophilia jokes, yes.
We also talked about cat poo.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Cat poo came up in the conversation. Yeah. I told Justin I was in love with him, and he told me I needed a penis.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a heartbreak.
It would help, but we're missing Joseph and what's the other one called? Only joking, Nathan. Honestly, yeah. So what?
Norman. Isn't it?
Norman.
Yeah.
Neil. No. Joseph and Nathan. We wish you were here, but maybe next time when we get that millionaire backer on Patreon. So, if you're listening,
you'll probably hear this clip later, but I also quizzed Amanda on who her favourite is from Hysteria Continues. Now that she's met all four of us in the flesh, and I think you'll probably predict what the answer is.
Well, it's the answer because Erik was strong-arming Amanda. Amanda, what was your real answer?
I'm pretty sure it was Nathan.
Oh, well, on that bombshell.
Thank you for listening, and over and out from London town.
And welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little chat.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at my joke again. It was so good.
Oh, that was awful.
Yeah, but I just edited in loads of tumbleweeds, Eric. So you're laughing at that, weren't you? My clever editing. But anyway, before we get to... I hope you enjoyed that, and we're very much looking forward to speaking to Amanda, having her on the show next time. I'll tell you what we're going to be covering very shortly. But before we do that, Joseph, you've got news, or you want to, tell us more about the game.
I've been doing a lot of games lately. I think it's a good way to interact with people. But this game is like the previous one. No one got the answer right last time, so here's 3 more clues for the same movie I'm thinking of. First clue is Moss and Rocks. The second clue is Chuck Norris is next. And number 3 is Chattanooga, Tennessee. Ooh. So there you go.
Oh, places where I live.
Intriguing.
You live in Chuck Norris?
Things you can eat.
No. But I live in the same country where he lives. So
things that don't rhyme with orange.
Yeah, that's it. So get your guesses in.
Play along.
That's it. Yes, play along. There you go.
Excellent.
Your other game, though, that's going on FB is very frustrating because none of my picks are making it to round 2.
Yeah, some of them I'm really shocked are getting eliminated. I'm like, what? But
is Axum still in there?
No, I got eliminated.
Phew.
But Movie House Massacre got eliminated.
A lot of people did vote for Axum. I think they were just being cheeky.
Yes.
But it's been fun so far. It's really fun.
Cool. Well, drop by the Facebook group to just join in. But is there anything else we want to say before we talk about what's coming up next?
Oh, one more thing I was going to mention. Apparently, the for Final Destination series, apparently the first one, the budget was around $23 million. That's what I heard. Anyway,
do you hear that they filmed a separate ending?
It's the one where Clear Rivers is giving birth to a demon baby.
Yeah, she gives birth to a cockroach with big hair.
Name Allendale.
Yeah,
Did you get that from IMDb?
And that turns out to be Death.
And apparently Susie and Toya are in battle or something like that.
Who?
Can you imagine like a Marvel's universe kind of Susie and Toya epic battle with $100 million budget?
Wow. Directed by Michael Bay.
And they could
sell 2 tickets.
That little GIF you sent round, animated GIF with Toya farting. Out that, and then running away
There's just
down that tunnel.
There's an explosion behind her because she's in a futuristic battle world with her futuristic headgear on.
Sparkly chuff, and then runs away from it.
It wasn't a sparkly chuff.
I think it was. But anyway, let's talk about next time. And we're actually going to be, funnily enough, we're going from one not really a slasher movie to another potentially, arguably, well, actually, entirely not really a slasher movie.
Yep.
But we are going to be talking about TV slashers with Amanda Reyes, who's, as we said, the author of Are You in the House Alone? But we've actually picked it's from 1982. It's Don't Go to Sleep, which is a classic TV horror movie with slasher movie leanings, I would say, because it certainly is one by one. And I think very much kind of playing along the lines of what was out of the popular at the time. So that's going to be a fun one to talk about. But we'll be talking about all the other classics like Home for Christmas, sort of Deadly Lessons, all we'll kind of rattle through a lot of them.
Do you mean Home for the Holidays?
Covering what did. Sorry, yes, Home for Holidays. Oh,
didn't you write a book?
Home for Debbie. Home for Debbie.
Didn't you write a book, Justin?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that called? I can't remember now. I think it was called. Mein Kampf.
Prepubescent death pile or something like that.
That was the one.
What did you say the book was, Justin? I heard that.
Prepubescent death pile.
I said Mein Kampf as a little funny joke.
That's what I thought you said.
Yeah.
I'm Jewish. Thank you.
I don't know why I said that, but anyway, just first thing came to my
You're
head.
Italian.
I'm not Jewish.
Andrea Zuckerman is.
I love when we all say a bunch of random stuff and then there's like,
silence.
10, 15 seconds of just dead silence.
Awkward silence, yeah. Maybe I should
what
sing.
Makes it's podcast gold. No, okay. Anyway, so we're signing off now. No, we've got Erik. You've got a lovely voice. Let's hear your soprano.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery. I'm searching for a clue. There you go.
Well, I got my new ringtone now.
Yeah,
There
thank
you
you,
go.
Alec Jones. Right.
What did you say, Justin? Joseph, don't cry.
Alec Jones.
Alec Jones, yeah.
So anyway, oh god, it's turning into one of those shows, isn't it? So let's leave this clusterfuck, and next time we'll be on our top game with professionals as we are. But it's actually going to be quite a short one, as most people say to Erik, because it's only about an hour and a half. Actually, an extra 5 minutes with Amanda and Erik talking drunkenly in a hotel bar, which I hope you enjoyed as well. But so what are we playing out with, Joseph?
Well, this is Rocky Mountain High by John Denver.
Of course, as
and apparently he's full of shit, man.
That's from Dumb and Dumber.
Yes.
Okay, right. Well, thank you for listening to this, and hopefully we've got a few listeners by the end of this, but who knows. But so join us next time, and we'll be back with some TV slashers, and look forward to speaking with you then, or giving you oral pleasure.
Ooh.
Perhaps. Oral with an A.
Yes, I
Erik.
know.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Wow, you
Okay,
lovely,
right.
gorgeous
All right.
people.
That's some jerk.
Yeah, say goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
Bye.
I'll see you soon.